Welcome to another episode of The Dissection. Will the economic freedom fighters join the government of national unity? If you're looking at this headline from the Sunday Times, it looks as if there's a bit of possibility to that. So what's the story about? What's going on and what's likely to happen? So as you know, the Minister of Finance proposed a VAT increase of 1% in his budget speech delivered on Wednesday. And that 1% is split into two, 0.5 this year, 0.5 in another year. Parliament has 16 days to approve the VAT increase before its implementation on the 1st of May. And as things stand right now, the MK has threatened to march against the VAT increase. The Democratic Alliance delayed the first budget, which sought to implement a 2% VAT increase, and doubled down in their rejection of the VAT increase with this new budget. The economic freedom fighters have said that they will not support a VAT increase. So it doesn't seem as if the African National Congress has the votes as things stand. Then comes the story. There's a story in the Sunday Times that the EFF leader, Julius Malema, told them that while he did not support a VAT hike, he was willing to negotiate with the ANC to help it pass the budget. Julius Malema also indicated that while he had not been formally approached about joining the government of national unity, he was keen to discuss the issue with all relevant stakeholders. So this is what he said. The EFF opposes any VAT increase. So we don't know how they are going to cross that bridge. It doesn't matter what happens. But if they come to us, we're going to say, let's rework the budget and see where we get the money from other than VAT. This is what Malema said. Malema said that the EFF's potential talks with the ANC on the budget could not be rushed because of the timeline for passing the budget, as the circumstances the country found itself in were not normal. We are a country at crossroads. Those things, timelines, are normal processes for when the country is normal. This is how the government proceeds to deal with issues during normal times. But here, we're dealing with an abnormal situation here. I don't know if my Julius Malema voice is any good. I'm not Trevor Noah. I've never claimed to be Trevor Noah. I'm just trying to improve this reading, make it more entertaining. Malema said the budget impasse was an opportunity for all parties interested in the GNU, including the EFF, to discuss what the coalition sought to achieve and that they should not take firm positions on issues. So, the budget reopens the whole discussion of the GNU, which was supposed to be done right after the elections. There needs to be an open debate where the various parties say, this is what we stand for. This is so by the time people go into a coalition, they've actually agreed on the fundamentals. They, the GNU partners, have never had discussions on the fundamentals. They had discussions on who is taking which positions. It can't work like that, Malema said. He said this was an opportune moment to go back there and say, okay, we're forming this thing, but what do we seek to achieve out of this thing? Mbalula, on the other hand, would not be drawn on Malema's comments. He said, I can't talk to you. I can't talk to Julius via you, he said. Mbalula told Sunday Times that the ANC had stated it was publicly willing to talk to everyone. Other ANC leaders who asked not to be named when they spoke to the Sunday Times because they didn't have authority to speak on the matter also indicated that the party was keen to talk to the economic freedom fighters. So Malema doesn't want a VAT increase. And if he doesn't want a VAT increase, but he wants to help the ANC with the budget and negotiate GNU, what would he propose, right? In an article written in Times Live by Julius Malema against the VAT, he said the following. For far too long, the ruling party has governed under the influence of an incompetent and unchecked national treasury that prioritizes foreign investors over the needs of ordinary South Africans. They have treated the poor and the working class with disdain, consistently making economic decisions that entrenched inequality. This was most evident in 2018 when former Finance Minister Malusi Kigaba increased VAT from 14% to 15% without justification except to please so-called investors. Instead of implementing wealth tax or increasing corporate tax in proportion to the massive profits made by multinational corporations, the ruling party chose to place the final burden on the shoulders of the poor. So it should be evident then that Julius Malema is going to propose either a wealth tax or an increase in corporate tax. There is an argument around increasing corporate tax that has been dismissed, but I think is worth thinking about, at least as we are having this conversation. Research has indicated that South Africa's corporate sector is sitting on more than 1 trillion in cash reserves. yet fixed investment is barely growing and firms continue to shift their investments and operations abroad. So they're not building anything new, they're moving the money, they're avoiding some tax obligations. This research is by the University of Johannesburg Center for Competition, Regulation and Economic Development, the CCRED. The last paper that they did on this showed that cash reserves of the JSE's top 50 companies, excluding dual or multi-listed entities, rose to 1.4 trillion. They rose to 1.4 trillion from 240 billion in 2005. So let me repeat that. Their research showed that the cash reserves of the JSE's top 50 companies, excluding dual or multi-listed entities, rose to 1.4 trillion in 2017-2018 from 242 billion in 2005. And that number has gone up. It has gone up. And the Minister of Finance has said that they're not willing to raise corporate tax for three reasons. He said increasing corporate or personal income rates would generate less revenue while potentially harming investment, job creation, and economic growth. I wonder if it's true that it will harm investment when the companies themselves are already not investing. He said corporate tax collections have declined over the last few years, an indication of failing profits, and the trading environment worsened by the logistics constraints and rising electricity costs. It also could be worsened by tax avoidance and what is known as base erosion. Right? Furthermore, he said, South Africa's corporate income tax collections are already higher than most of our peer countries. He didn't mention which ones is he comparing with in particular, and that's what he said. I think that a case can be made for an increase in corporate tax because companies have these large cash reserves that they're not investing in the South African economy. In the latest GDP report for Q4 2024, the investment, the fixed capital investment, decreased by 0.7, and that continues a trend of decline as demonstrated by these two slides I'm going to put up here. Slide 1. Slide 2. As you can see, gross fixed capital formation is declining and there's a trend of decline. For those who are not familiar with this term, gross fixed capital formation is a macroeconomic indicator which measures the total value of acquisitions minus disposals of fixed assets by business, governments, and households within an economy during a specific period. It represents the portion of GDP allocated to investments in durable assets rather than immediate consumption. It includes produced assets, tangible items like buildings, machinery, infrastructure, and intangible assets such as patents and software. It looks at non-produced assets such as land improvements, irrigation systems, flood barriers, and natural resource enhancements such as land reclamation. It looks at the purchasing of second-hand assets such as used machinery. It excludes financial assets, land transactions, and inventories. I think that it's clear that companies right now are not investing in the South African economy, that they are holding on to the cash. We just saw right now that the CEO of Standard Bank is going to be paid 89 million rands, showing that banks are making a lot of profits. A lot of companies are making profits. They make a lot of profits and they report those profits in their annual reports, and they come back and they say, this economy is very difficult. We're struggling in the economy, etc., etc. But I mean, we have to ask that question, right? If you're struggling and everything is so bad, why in the annual reports every year it's profits? Really? Who's fooling who here? So look, I don't think that also this argument that companies will run away that the Minister of Finance made is true. They make money in this market. I don't think that they are going to leave this market. Vodacom makes a lot of money in South Africa, for example. Where would they go? They would lose a significant amount of their revenue globally if they left South Africa. So I think that they could potentially take a 0.5 increase in corporate tax and another 0.5 next year. So I don't think that this is going to happen, though. I'm just presenting the argument to you for your consideration. I don't think that Mr. Ramaphosa and Mr. Godongwana will go for a corporate tax increase, not necessarily just because of those arguments he presented. I think because Mr. Ramaphosa is a company man and he's a high wealth individual, so he wouldn't want a high wealth tax and also a corporate tax, right? Also, companies have been contributing significantly to the President's Project Management Office, carrying favor in that regard. But corporate CEOs helped President Ramaphosa get elected. We remember all of the marches, all of the protests. So he's not going to do something that is against their interests. And I think it's very interesting that the markets were very calm. on Wednesday and Thursday and Friday, even though the VAT increase is on the table and parties are saying they oppose it. Look, I'm going to put it to you that I think that they are very calm because they're not on the chopping block. They're not on the table. It's business as usual for companies. So what Julius Malema has said he's going to propose, I don't think the ANC will go for. I don't think that the ANC is actually interested in giving EFF guys such as Sinao Tambo, Vuyani Pambo cabinet positions. That would not be a recipe for them to do well in the next election, because these guys are going to hit the ground running. We've already seen how some of them are operating in parliament. I think that it would be too much of a direct juxtaposition to the next generation of leaders trying to lead the ANC, such as Ronald Lamola, to have Julius Malema occupying a cabinet position and making that cabinet position work. So I don't think that MK is going to go, ANC is going to go for this. I don't think that the markets will support the ANC going into coalition with the EFF. So it's not a viable thing that is going to be considered by President Ramaphosa and anybody else. So why is Fikile Mbalula saying, I'm not going to talk to Julius through you? Why is he suggesting that there's a viability to this? I think Malema may be interested in doing it, and if the ANC were to make that move, he would exploit it. But I don't think that the ANC is going to go for it, because Julius is going to try to get them to increase corporate tax or wealth tax. So if the ANC will not do a deal with the EFF, why is the story on the front page of Sunday Times? I think it's for a simple reason: to persuade the Democratic Alliance to do a deal. That's what I think it's for. What do you guys think? Let's have a conversation. If you haven't signed up for the book club, we're live. We're doing deep dives into books. We've already done one. You can do so. The book lab is live and running. So when you go to the channel, you just click join there. And if you're using an iPhone, you have to log on to YouTube on your iPhone browser and then request the desktop site. You'll be able to log on. Otherwise, let's keep growing the channel. There's a lot of work to be done. There's a lot of knowledge to seek to understand the moment, and the book club is going to be a big part of doing that. You know, the scripture says, my people perish for lack of knowledge. So let's get knowledge and let's stop perishing. That's what it's about. Oh, somebody said I should recommend getting the books from the library. I don't know why. I always recommending the bookstores. We can get the books at the library and go through them. So we've got two books that we've already started talking about. One is the Capitec book, and the other one is called Fortunes. You can join the book club, find out more about that. Till the next one.